The film opens with a battle scene narrated by the protagonist. He leads his squad into combat. The commander drives a pickup truck at high speed into a skyscraper, leaps out, and shoots down what seems like an entire army. He systematically moves up the floors, steadily eliminating the enemies. However, one of the soldiers unexpectedly gets surrounded. Everyone advises the leader to abandon him, but he heroically jumps in to help the careless subordinate. Mid-air, he throws a grenade and fires a few rounds to take out the shooters. The trapped soldier is rescued, and it's time to return to the main mission. The team successfully fends off the attackers and advances toward their goal, a bomb on the top floor. The commander sacrifices himself so the hacker can defuse it in time. The final shot hits the protagonist square in the temple. Unexpectedly, it turns out that the battle and the heroic death took place in virtual reality. The team celebrates their victory and praises their leader for his bravery. This is Kwon Yoon. He gets invited to a party, but his empty wallet disagrees with the plan, so the gamer decides to postpone the meeting. Suddenly, his phone starts ringing. It's Kwon's mother asking him to come home and turn off the stove. She works at a hospital, caring for the elderly, and plans to stay late at the clinic that evening. She urges her son to set aside his games. Although she disapproves of his passion for virtual battles, she speaks kindly of him to a patient. Ignoring her request, Kwon remains at the internet cafe. Unexpectedly, another phone starts ringing nearby, but it isn't his. He picks it up. Someone has left their phone behind and is asking for it to be returned. Initially, Kwon refuses, but the girl offers a generous reward. He agrees and heads to the specified location. When he reaches the designated apartment, the door is already open. Kwon rings the bell, but doesn't enter. No one responds, so he steps inside and finds an empty apartment. Through the translucent glass of the shower cabin, he sees a girl. She asks him to leave the phone upstairs and take the money from the same place. Kwon goes upstairs, places the phone on the bed, takes the money, and leaves. Before leaving, he informs her exactly where the phone is and advises the careless stranger that leaving the apartment door open is a bad idea. The next morning, Kwon is awakened by the police bursting in. The officers unceremoniously pin him face down on the floor. Blood has mysteriously appeared on Kwon's hands, and a bloodied knife is found in the corner of his room. Kwon, in shock, cannot comprehend what has happened. Amid disapproving shouts and jabs from angry onlookers, the suspect is taken to the police station. News reports reveal that Kwon was once part of the national Taekwondo team, but was expelled due to a fight and subsequently got lost in virtual gaming. At the station, the avid gamer is interrogated, quickly presented with evidence, and bombarded with questions. His mother is not allowed to see him. Kwon is accused of murder since his fingerprints and other traces are found at the crime scene. He adamantly denies his guilt. Meanwhile, his mother tries to convince people of her son's innocence, but her efforts are in vain. Her flyers fail to persuade anyone. All DNA tests point to Kwon's culpability. Desperate, Kwon's mother visits a lawyer named Min Jong-san, pleading for him to believe in her son's innocence. However, the bureaucratic lawyer dismisses her and ignores her pleas. The only advice he gives is to plead guilty as soon as possible. The next episode depicts Kwon's trial. As evidence, the prosecutor presents footage from a security camera showing Kwon leaving the building where the victim lived. The courtroom gasps as they hear the gruesome details of the case. Kwon sits in utter confusion, trying to deny his involvement, but no one listens. He is labeled as a gaming addict, so immersed in virtual worlds that he can no longer distinguish reality from fiction. The judge ignores the arguments of both the defense attorney and the accused. Believing that Kwon committed murder and assaulted a minor, the judge sentences him to life in prison. Kwon is to be held in a maximum security prison alongside murderers and other dangerous criminals. Kwon is transported to the prison by bus. He refuses to get off, but a tranquilizer shot to the neck knocks him out. He wakes up on the cold floor of his cell. The doors open, and he heads to the cafeteria, where he takes his food and sits at a random table, looking utterly lost. During the outdoor break, he keeps to himself, avoiding contact with anyone. Initially, the other inmates merely observe him, but soon they grab him and drag him to an interrogation with the prison's top dog. Kwon tries to explain what happened, but he is beaten. The guards ignore the violence. In desperation, Kwon lunges at the ringleader, only to be dragged away and beaten again. The ringleader tells Kwon to stop denying his guilt. Eventually, the guards intervene, but it's Kwon who gets the brunt of their batons. He is thrown into solitary confinement. A month later, the former gamer returns to the harsh reality of prison life. Walking down the corridor, Kwon notices that the other inmates are following him. He starts to run, but gets trapped. Armed with shivs, Doksu's henchmen lead him to an empty storage room and force him face down on the floor. Doksu declares that he cannot tolerate disrespect and promises to show Kwon the consequences. What happens next is left off screen. Kwon is carried out, bloodied and battered, appearing as though he tried to bite his own wrists open. Sometime later, his mother is allowed to visit him, accompanied by a lawyer. She has given interviews to numerous magazines and believes that her son's alibi will soon be proven. They are preparing for an appeal. She tells Kwon to pull himself together and keep living so that one day he can be free. She promises to find a way to get him out of prison. The next day, in the prison cafeteria, Kwon eats alone, standing by the wall. After lunch, Doksu and his lackeys beat him up again. This pattern repeats multiple times. One day, an elderly inmate sits with Kwon and shares his food. He tells Kwon that he doesn't seem like a murderer and that Doksu just wants to break him. Despite the constant attacks, Kwon doesn't break. He keeps ending up in solitary confinement, getting beaten, but now he trains and endures the blows more resiliently. One day, while working in the prison, Doksu's gang tries to ambush him again. This time, Kwon is prepared. He has crafted a slingshot and makeshift arrows from available materials. He successfully fends off the attackers and eventually confronts Doksu himself, who is wielding a massive wrench. Kwon shoots an arrow at him, lands a few punches, and knocks him out. The inmates disperse as the guards arrive. Kwon is taken to the visiting room, but only his lawyer is there. His mother is absent. The lawyer informs him that his mother has died. She had tried her best to help her son, but couldn't bear the strain and took her own life, or so it says on her death certificate. Desperate and crushed by the news of losing the person closest to him, Kwon falls asleep in his cell, overwhelmed by grief. Morning comes, and Kwon heads out for his daily walk. Doksu's gang attempts to attack him, but the guards intervene. The gang then incites a riot, overpowering the guards. Alarms blare throughout the facility, but Kwon walks indifferently through the chaos and sirens. At that moment, Doksu sneaks up behind him with a shiv. Kwon notices just in time and strikes back with a sharp object of his own, slashing Doksu's cheek. A guard sees this, points a gun at Kwon, and orders him to drop his weapon. In response, Kwon stabs himself in the abdomen and collapses. He and the other injured are taken to the clinic. Kwon regains consciousness and prepares to escape. At this point, we are shown the old man again, who had shared his food with him in the cafeteria, having given Kwon advice on how to seize an opportunity for escape. Kwon swiftly and systematically disables all the accompanying personnel. Only the driver and his guard in the front seats remain. Kwon threatens them with a syringe filled with tranquilizer and demands the keys. The driver then swerves, crashing the vehicle into a concrete barrier. Kwon manages to catch the keys in midair, frees himself, and tumbles out of the wrecked vehicle. In a nearby village, Kwon finds civilian clothes and evades pursuit. On the highway, he encounters a couple beside a broken-down car. He helps fix their engine and asks for a ride. The couple agrees willingly. They are heading to the airport, planning to fly to China. The car is briefly stopped at a checkpoint, but quickly waved through. Kwon skillfully hides in the back seat, avoiding detection by the police. At the airport, the couple warmly bids Kwon farewell and gives him their car, which they had bought cheaply for their trip. Kwon drives back to the city, where he has been on the run for 2 days. His first destination is his lawyer's office. He waits for the lawyer, apologizes for the unexpected visit, and begs for a place to stay as he has nowhere else to go. Initially, the lawyer considers calling the police, but then changes his mind and offers Kwon some coffee. Kwon tries to find out if there is anyone who can provide an alibi for him. The lawyer reveals that it was a joke by some kids, and in reality, no one was willing to testify for Kwon. His mother had found this out and was deeply troubled by giving her son false hope, which the lawyer believes led her to her desperate act. He gives Kwon a necklace that Kwon had once given his mother, something she cherished. The lawyer then advises Kwon to turn himself in. Kwon manages to escape through a window. He finds a computer and searches for details about his case. Checking his email, he discovers a mysterious video. In the video, the host discusses inconsistencies in Kwon's case. The main evidence against Kwon is dashcam footage from a parked car showing him entering the building where the victim lived. However, many other videos that could clarify the events have mysteriously disappeared. Instead, someone has manipulated the evidence to ensure Kwon's conviction. An anonymous hacker has sided with Kwon, revealing that he was in the victim's apartment for only 3 minutes, not long enough to commit the crime he's accused of. Additionally, among the victim's contacts is a suspicious man she had met the night before at a club. This man was never even questioned by the police. However, the narrative of an unemployed gamer losing his sanity suited everyone perfectly. Kwon leaves the cafe and plans to meet the hacker the next day at a diner. Suddenly, a silent girl sits down at his table and hands him a ringing smartphone. Another girl answers, identifying herself as the mysterious hacker and explaining that she altered her voice in the video to sound male to avoid recognition. She addresses Kwon as commander. Kwon gets into a car with the first girl and arrives at an unfamiliar location, the hacker's base. The hacker, named Beard, orders groceries and avoids face-to-face interaction, likely due to years of isolation from humans. She prepares a meal for two, and they eat with gusto. Midway through the meal, Kwon starts to cry. Beard calls him and reassures him that a team will arrive soon and that there's no need for his tears. At that moment, the doorbell rings. 3 people enter, sit down, and thank Beard for the meal. Kwon, armed with a frying pan, stands ready to defend himself. One of the newcomers asks Kwon to sit down and explains that they are all there to help him. He introduces the group. They are Kwon's teammates from one of his games. The unemployed guy in the cap is a master hacker, the support player. The red-shirt Destruction is a sniper, and a film and special effects expert in real life. The long-haired guy with the shotgun in the game is the oldest in real life, a professor of architecture. Meanwhile, the police interrogate Kwon's lawyer, who remains tight-lipped and leaves. The lawyer then requests all the case materials from his informant. Through this information, he learns about Doksu. The team gets to work. The hacker, Beard, scours the internet for details about Kwon's case and shares her findings with the team. She discovers that many pieces of evidence were suspiciously easy to find, and Kwon's arrest seemed unusually swift. In one of the recordings she uncovers, she spots a suspicious truck with a fake brand on its side, parked near the victim's house for about an hour. This strange vehicle appears in other unsolved cases as well. The team decides to track down the truck at a junkyard. Kwon takes Destruction with him and finds the vehicle. Men in suits are hovering around it. When they leave, Kwon follows their car while Destruction stays to watch the truck. The car stops in the yard of a house, where a steady stream of people with belongings follows it inside. Kwon seizes the moment to peek into the house. Inside, it's clear someone has been killed. A group of people in hazmat suits is photographing the scene and erasing all evidence. Kwon records the entire cleanup. By the end, the house looks untouched, as if nothing had happened. At this moment, Destruction calls Kwon. He sees the men in suits placing a large cello case into the truck's bed and then changing the brand sticker on it. Kwon orders him to follow the truck. Destruction tracks it to a massive skyscraper. Kwon arrives, but they can't get inside due to tight security. The team then plans a nighttime operation. The old man and the master disguise themselves as maintenance workers to infiltrate the skyscraper. Following Beard's instructions, Destruction cuts the alarm wires while she coordinates from her hideout. The old man distracts the guards while the master hacks into the main server, barely extracting the necessary data in time. Next, Kwon enters the building using the codes obtained by his teammates. Beard disables the cameras. Kwon makes his way to an apartment on the 13th floor and finds a white case containing the corpse of a famous TV actor. The team alerts Kwon that company is on the way. Kwon closes the case and hides. He watches as a crime scene is staged with the appropriate fingerprints and other evidence. In a nearby glass container, a body floats in a preservative liquid, preventing decomposition. The main character's lawyer watches the scene via surveillance cameras. The next morning, a news broadcast reports that a popular actor was murdered by a deranged individual. The following scene takes place in the lawyer's office, where his dark-haired assistant places a flash drive on his desk. The lawyer asks her to wait for the right moment and enters a secret room, accessible only by facial recognition. Inside, he sits at a large, glowing table, displaying hundreds of photographs of various individuals. He inserts the flash drive, turning the entire floor into a massive screen. From the thousands of portraits, he selects a girl and a boy, then calls a journalist, urging her to publish something immediately. The reporter refuses, prompting the lawyer to slam the floor in frustration and end the call. Next, we see a team of fake delivery men working for the lawyer. They arrive at the chosen girl's home, claiming to have a promotional gift. Moments later, the girl is incapacitated. The perpetrators collect her hair, fingerprints, and other biometric data, sending the information to a central facility. Special gloves are made based on her fingerprints to fake her touch, which are then used to mark various objects in the actor's home. Meanwhile, Kwon's team continues their investigation, trying to uncover the origins of these mysterious murders. Kwon asks Beard to search for the girl using her fingerprints, suspecting that she is being framed for the crime. After some time, they use the prints to locate the victim's address. They find her at a hair salon where an elderly man slyly sits next to her and steals her mobile phone. Suddenly, an enraged thug bursts into the salon, drags her outside, and demands she repay a debt, assaulting her when she fails to comply. Kwon intervenes and drives the assailant away. The next day, Kwon listens in on the young woman's phone calls. Her mother berates her for not contributing financially to her brother's needs, leading to a heated argument. Meanwhile, back at Beard's place, everyone is asleep, but Kwon continues his surveillance. He stays up all night without eating or sleeping to ensure he misses nothing critical. He realizes that Beard was the person who had intended to help his mother. However, the girl modestly weighs it off and quickly changes the subject when it comes to that. Unexpectedly, the young woman's phone rings. A female voice on the other end claims to have found her wallet and offers to return it. Kwon remembers how he was once deceived in a similar situation by the same voice. Beard suggests they keep the caller on the line for 3 minutes to trace the location. Kwon picks up, but the memories of recent traumatic events paralyze him. The hacker girl takes over, using voice modulation software to engage the caller and pinpoint the address. Kwon tries to rescue the woman and finds her on the street, but a motorcyclist dressed in black swiftly abducts her. This same biker had been distributing fake fingerprints at crime scenes. Kwon immediately jumps into his car and gives chase, with the police tailing him. At a critical moment, his old clunker breaks down in the middle of the highway. The police close in, but a truck suddenly rushes through their formation. Yet, this doesn't help Kwon. His adversaries are not law enforcement, but Doksu and his cronies, who kidnap him. The criminal leader begins firing miniature arrows at the hero using a homemade slingshot. An observing lawyer smirks at the scene. The authority figure embeds one projectile after another into the commander's body, aiming to leave a scar on his cheek before killing him. Meanwhile, Beard calls the police, posing as a hostage, claiming that she is about to be murdered and provides a tip-off about the building where Kwon is being held. The SWAT team surrounds the building, but is ordered not to intervene. Then, the hacker pretends over the phone that she cannot hold on much longer. This prompts the police to decide to storm the building. They apprehend everyone inside, and Kwon manages to escape. The hacker picks him up in an old car, despite barely knowing how to drive. They are soon caught up by Doksu, who threatens to kill Kwon. At that moment, the main character cleverly evades capture. However, the hacker finds a tracking device on him, hidden within beads that he once gifted to his mother and now kept as a memento. In a rush of emotions, the commander throws the device out of the car window. Doksu receives a call from his bosses, who force him to continue the search for Kwon, setting terms that freedom awaits him if he succeeds, but prison if he fails. Back at the base, the squad dines, suspecting the lawyer of instigating the entire mess. Kwon asks a master technician to assemble a drone. The mechanical bird is soon ready, and the team takes it on their excursion to the lawyer's office. The drone flies up to his window and films the activities inside. A laser microphone allows them to hear through the glass. The lawyer's assistant is caught speaking on the phone, and the content of the conversation reveals that both are involved in the chaos. However, the squad finds it hard to believe that all operations were conducted from such a small office. The drone circles the building, scanning it with a specialized beam. Beard attempts to hack into the server and steal data, but the security is too robust. At that moment, the lawyer receives a phone call. At the crime scene, which he meticulously altered, his own photos have appeared, and the planted evidence has been destroyed. Min Chong-san and his assistant meticulously inspect the room, finding all their sinister efforts wasted. The lawyer decides to redo everything, including obtaining new biological material from a victim. The clients of the scheme express their dissatisfaction with the lawyer's performance directly to him. The team successfully thwarts the adversary's plans and upgrades Kwon's car with a new, powerful engine. The group masters various tactics and disrupts the lawyer's operations on all fronts, blowing up his vans, stealing fake evidence, and more. Min turns on the TV, which at that very moment is broadcasting a story about the body of an actor found. Beside it, a confused decoy victim awakens, but Kwon has cleverly substituted her for the daughter of the crime's mastermind. Now, the lawyer faces significant problems, having made a major blunder. Then, he receives a call from the commander. The lawyer, driven mad by his impunity, now believes he can say whatever he pleases as it suits him. He threatens Kwon. The lawyer turns around to find his assistant knocked unconscious in the room. He dashes to his safe haven, but inside, Kwon is waiting for him. The hero brutally beats the man who betrayed him. Then, he hacks into his enemy's computer and retrieves all the files related to his case. Just as the main villain regains consciousness, Kwon almost kills him, but stops himself. Realizing his team needs help, Kwon finds out that Doksu has captured the Master, the Destroyer, the long-haired one, and the Beard, threatening their lives. Kwon wants to copy the data for his freedom onto a flash drive and leave to assist them, but it will take half an hour. The commander threatens the lawyer with death, but the lawyer insists that even this won't stop the crime lord. Kwon knocks the lawyer out and drives off to rescue his friends. Doksu fires several shots at the long-haired one and misses. Then, Beard lunges at him, and she is taken away. The master tries to stall the crime lord with talk, but suddenly, the lights go out. In complete darkness, Kwon overpowers the entire gang, rescues his team, and runs to the car. Doksu and his men give chase, but get stuck in an alley. An entire army is pursuing Kwon. With maneuvers reminiscent of Fast and Furious, the commander cleverly leads all pursuers astray. Meanwhile, the lawyer issues a fake news broadcast claiming that the commander will soon be captured and has kidnapped the crime client's daughter. In the report, he also exposes the entire hero's team, branding them as a group of psychopaths. The chase continues. The lawyer had just received a triumphant call from a satisfied client, but Kwon was not so easily defeated. Suddenly, he dropped his team off at a multi-level parking garage. The lawyer ordered Doksu to eliminate them. The squad made their way to a television station, holding it long enough for Beard to broadcast a report. Meanwhile, the commander, the long-haired one, and the Destruction engaged the pursuers in an epic battle. Unexpectedly, Doksu kidnapped Beard. When the police arrived and subdued the squad, Kwon was quick to tail the villain. During the chase, he snatched the hacker from a window into his car and slammed the crime lord against a parked vehicle. Quan freed Beard and headed for the TD station, with police cars in pursuit. At the end of his journey, he emerged from his turbo vehicle with his hands raised on the street. His team was detained. The lawyer celebrated, but not for long. Unbeknownst to him, data had been copied onto a flash drive left by the commander. At that moment, the hacker launched her broadcast across all channels. The program revealed how a wealthy businessman had covered up his daughter's involvement in a star's murder. It also detailed the lawyer and his assistant's roles in the cover-up. Quan had been framed to obscure a crime connected to the son of a powerful figure. In the end, the main hero celebrated his victory. The commander remembered his mother.